Warning: the following contains explicit language and subject matter that may not be suitable for younger listeners, church folk, and people who enjoy kale smoothies.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to A Pod Amongst Men. I'm your host, Steve B., and this is Coffee Break Conversations for the 21st century. My guest today, Domino, one of the Three Ninjas, host of the Three Ninjas podcast, host of the Domino Effect podcast, returning guest, podcast alumni. Dom was kind enough to come on here tonight and talk about a difficult, uncomfortable conversation, and that is race. The conversation of race, having friends from different races, how we interact with people from different races, how we deal with racism, and all kinds of crazy shit like that. And Dom was extremely generous with his time, and he was very generous with the conversation. So I give him all the credit in the world because this is uncomfortable for a lot of people, and he was super cool about the whole thing. So I'm not going to ramble too much. Without further ado, here he is, Domino, and this is the podcast. So anyway, bro, what's going on? How you been?
Hey, nothing, man. You know, just trying to survive, trying to get through the day, man. Other than that, I can't complain, man. I ain't got to complain. We're there.
You still you ducking COVID out there?
Ducking COVID, ducking child support, you know, all that good shit. You know, just trying to keep my head afloat, man. You know, like I said, it's been one of them days, man. So, you know, just trying to stay positive and get my chi right and all that good stuff.
Positive mental attitude, man. Positive mental attitude.
Boy, I'm trying. I mean, sometimes it comes at the bottom of a bottle. Sometimes you got to, you know, talk to somebody, but, you know, I get there sooner or later.
Hey, if you want to do the talking option, what better place than this, right?
I know, right? You know,
Yeah.
Talk to a man to just, you know, just let it all out.
You know, I know we're saying that joking around, but it's amazing how often that shit actually helps. You know what I mean? Like when you talk to somebody who's not necessarily within your main circle, you know, just someone where you feel like it's not going to get back to the people that you see every single day.
Right.
So you can kind of vent a little more, I feel like, with people. Like you talk to somebody at work, you know, it's not going to get back to like the people at home.
Yeah. I think that's the reason most people don't talk as much as they do, because they feel like I don't want everybody in my business type of thing. So it's like, you know, I may not tell my parents everything because I don't want my aunts or my fucking cousins in my business, or I might not tell my friends because it's going to, you know, get back to. So now I'm going through this, and then as soon as it gets to the last person, I might be going through fucking like cancer or something like that. So, but you know, I'm good. I'm all right. I'm surviving.
All right. You know, you always got a friend here. You never need to let the floodgates open.
Thank you for being a friend.
When you need somebody to lean on. Anyway, but it's actually perfectly that I said that. And that doesn't even make sense grammatically what I just said, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm here.
Yeah. Picking up what I'm putting down.
Right.
But, you know, this episode, like I said, I wanted to talk about, you know, having friends from different backgrounds and different ethnicities and races and everything, and actually being able to have the awkward, uncomfortable conversations about especially things like race and ethnicity. And, you know, in a time like this right now, it's like this is the place that we've been saying, I feel like we've been saying that we want to get to, where we can actually have those uncomfortable conversations, because it needs to happen for us as a society and even as a country to grow and learn from the fucked up shit that's going on in the past. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's tough, you know, especially now. You know, everybody's kind of walking on eggshells. Nobody knows what they're going to be able to get away with and what they can actually ask. Because if I don't know how much of this is rooted in reality, but it seems like people think that they could just, you know, have good intentions and say the wrong thing, and then their whole life and career is over. And I don't think that that's really the case. But I think
we're so quick to cancel everybody, you know, for every little mistake. Nobody gets a chance to, you know, right their wrongs. You know, we just so quick to, all right, first mistake, you out of here. We don't want to hear shit from you no more.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a big thing. It's like, don't we want people to learn from their mistakes and to grow?
No, you're not allowed to grow now.
All right.
You're allowed. You have to come into this game the way you want to be portrayed for the next however many years. You're not allowed to grow. You're not allowed to learn. You're not allowed to recant. None of that shit.
So you're talking like Bobby now.
I'm just saying, like it happens all the time. Whereas, like, you know, I've seen so many people, but like cancel culture isn't really a real thing anyway. At this point, it's like, you know, it's just it's like 5 really loud motherfuckers talking, you know, just saying that this isn't allowed. We don't like this. Man, I'm mad.
Yeah.
But
well,
at the end of the day, it doesn't last long.
It's only as powerful as we let it be. You know, if we believe that it's powerful and that it means something, then it does.
Right.
You know, so if we all just kind of be like, yeah, you know what, like, I'm not really offended by that. Like, you can't be offended for me. So, fuck off. I don't know.
I mean, but at the end of the day, words mean things.
Yes.
So, you know, you gotta, you know, take everything, you know, like that.
Well, let's not lose sight of that, because I think
right.
there's a lot of those people that like to push the envelope, and they just want to just say stuff, just, you know, oh, it's freedom of speech. It's like, okay, but there's consequences to shit you say. So let's keep that in mind.
Right.
There's no reason to just be an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how you grew up and like what it was like. You know, I know you're from Connecticut, from Bridgeport.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've only been through New Haven a handful of times, but that's
Lucky you.
That's the extent of my Connecticut experience.
Right.
Talked a little shit, you know, while driving through, but
right.
So, you know, what was it like where you grew up? Was it diverse? Did you have a lot of friends from different backgrounds and different ethnicities and races, or was it mostly, you know, homogenous?
No, I had a lot of friends from many different backgrounds. You know, growing up in Bridgeport, you know, we're obviously CT, so we're right next to New York, so you kind of get that influx of people as well. But I grew up with all different types of people, and as a, you know, a young man, I didn't really know. I thought it was only like white and black. Like I thought it was just that, you know. But when you hear people of different dialects and stuff like that, you don't really know what the fuck is going on unless you ask questions. So I grew up with like Haitians, Jamaicans, Cape Verdeans, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Guatemalan, El Salvador people. I grew up with like a lot of people, white people. Even though Bridgeport isn't, you know, majority white, I grew up with a few white people like on my block or the school I went to. My best friend in first grade was a white guy, Danny. I've never talked to him after maybe like fifth grade or something like that. But from like first to like fourth grade, that was my dog. Like that was my that was my homie. Like I didn't see color. It's just like it was Danny and it was me, and it was like that's what it was.
That's what it was for me in kindergarten. I used to live down in South Jersey in Camden County. My best friend was Blake. He's a black kid. All we knew was like, hey, yo, Super Mario Brothers is shit and nothing else matters.
Yeah, that's, you know, the homie, man.
But
I don't know. It's at some point where you like, you know, I don't know if it's conscious or unconsciously, you just you start to gravitate towards people that look like you. I don't know if that, you know, was something that was taught in his home, or that was just something like, I don't know what happened. It's just like we just grew apart. Then after a while, I didn't see Danny as much, and then I started gravitating to the people that was in my hood, and then I started hanging out with more, you know, black people or Spanish people that I related to, whether it was income based, whether it was, you know, general interest, whether it was, you know, just stuff like that, you know. But we just slowly just grew apart.
I gotta believe that part of that is like when you're a kid, you're trying to find, you know, your place where you fit in.
Yeah.
And everybody just wants to be part of a little group. You know what I mean? They want to fit in. They don't want to stick out. They want to, you know, for fear of being a target, I guess.
Right.
You reminded me of something you said back when you were young. If you thought it was only white and black, it reminded comedian Colin Quinn. He did a stand-up special all about New York and all the different types of people that live there and what makes New York, New York. And you say back then there was only 4 nationalities. You were either black, white, Puerto Rican, or Chinese, and that was it. It's like a cop comes up. He's like, "Do you see the guy?" He's like, "Oh, I think he was Filipino." All right, listen, was he Puerto Rican or Chinese? Pick one.
Yeah, I didn't see many Asians when I was growing up either. I didn't probably see my first Asian until I was maybe like 4th grade or something like that, where it was like, you know, we actually ordered Chinese food and like someone came to deliver the shit. I was like, oh shit, different. It's somebody else I've never seen, but that's the ignorance of, I guess, me staying in my neighborhood.
Yeah. Where I'm from, I mean, for here, I grew up in Bridgewater, New Jersey, and it was mostly white. You know, black, especially if you go to the east side, and there's a lot of Indians here, Indian people and Korean people that grew up around here. So I mean, it was kind of diverse, but it was still like overall mostly white. But I feel like, you know, you're what, 34, 35 now?
33.
33, okay.
Don't put that on me, Ricky Bobby. Come on.
No offense. But I feel like our generation, you know, we grew up in the late 80s and early in the 90s.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like diversity as far as things like shows we watched, music we listened to, you know, especially if you're into sports, you know, all the most popular athletes were black.
Right.
And especially for young white kids growing up in the suburbs like I did, like a lot of our heroes were black. A lot of the music we listened to was from black artists. You know, a lot of the movies and actors and stuff that we liked were black. I grew up loving Eddie Murphy. You know what I mean? Like my dad, I think we talked about this on an earlier episode. My parents always like almost exclusively listened to black artists.
Right.
And then they're the most white bread people you ever meet in your entire life. Which it's a weird thing. It's like a weird cognitive dissonance I have going on in my head because of that. But I feel like, you know, we at a young age we were almost naive to the shit that goes on once you really get out and see what other people are like, or actually kind of get under the skin of what some people think. You know, I've talked about this with friends of mine. It's like, especially with white people, like, you know, in the time that we grew up, racism wasn't something that was just out there, at least up here. It was that quiet, subtle racism. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you know, like Bill Burr said, you know, people, you know, look around a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was like being a white guy, other white guys that thought like that would look at me and think, oh yeah, okay, I could be myself in front of this guy. He's not gonna say nothing.
He's not gonna say nothing.
But then it's like, when you're young, you know, I was just a big pussy. I was like, Jesus Christ, I don't want to fucking talk to this guy anymore. But you also don't want to make a scene, and then next thing you know, now you got these guys basically gunning for you, and they're gonna say, fuck that guy, you know, any chance they get. So it was like that weird feeling of like, you know, fuck, like I don't want to be part of this, but it's like the world it sees me as part of it, even if it's nothing, you know, that I'm actively doing. You know?
I mean, all this is rooted in ignorance. That's all it is. It's, you know, we're not exposed to such. We just stay in our little bubble, our little secluded neighborhood. You know, we go to our schools that are a majority one way, and then, you know, it's not until, like you said, until we branch out and go somewhere else where we realize, like, oh, it's a whole different, you know, culture, you know, on this side of town, you know, this part of the state where, you know, we just haven't traveled. But that, you know, it's kind of like a trial and error thing where, you know, we'll go somewhere and we won't ask the questions. Like we're scared to ask the question, and I guess we don't want to offend anyone. So if you didn't grow up around a lot of black people and then you encounter a black person, you only go by, I guess, what you see in like movies or what you hear in rap music. We don't ask the questions. Like not every black person's a thug, has guns, knows someone in jail, knows someone on drugs. You know, it's pretty common actually when you leave the I guess your comfort, that you see like black people in better circumstances and not in the ghetto, I guess.
Yeah, cool. I mean, that's the stuff that, you know, people see in the media. That's the stuff that's if you don't know black people, that's all you have. That's the only example you have. So it's not a surprise that so many people are ignorant to, you know, stuff that's not within their little bubble. But I'm not saying it's okay. Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
Ask the question. It's like, yo, I don't want to that's the worst thing you can do is like when you judge a book by its cover. You know, it's just, you know, thinking that all black people are one way. Like I can't count how many times, because I have dreadlocks, that people will assume like I'm ignorant, I'm a thug, I've been to jail, all this shit. And it's just like not. If you talk to me, I got some substance to me. I can hold a conversation. But you know, it's just that, you know, they see a black person and it's like, oh, let me touch your hair, bitch. Get away from my hair. Don't touch me. Like I've had people touch my hair without asking me, and it's been white people, and I don't know how to react. And the way I should react isn't how I want to react, though. You know, it's not good.
Well, I mean, nobody could fault you for having an emotional reaction to something with somebody invading your private space. And I'll be honest, I like this conversation, like black folks saying, oh, people trying to touch my hair. The first time I heard that blew my fucking mind, dude.
Yeah.
Like I did, but then people always want to touch my head. So I don't know, like maybe I've had fucking strangers come up and just touch my head. And he's like, what do? You gonna fight everybody now?
I mean, yeah, because that's the only way you learn nowadays, because everybody don't understand words. Everybody understands a punch. So if you don't learn about words, I can talk till I'm blue in the face, but until you feel some pain, that's when you get the message like, maybe I shouldn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
That's been a lot of situations with mine. It was like, you're getting bullied or somebody's talking junk. It was like, yo, leave me alone. But then when you apply some pressure and shit happens, then it's like, all right, now I know not to. You're like, you can tell who hasn't been punched in the face before.
Oh, yeah.
You can always tell who hasn't been punched before.
I think it's a lot of people, to be honest. I think it's even people.
Too many.
I think there's some people that are really good at putting off that tough guy front.
Yeah.
And then you see him throw a punch somewhere and you're like, God damn, that's it?
You ever see these rappers when they post their boxing videos?
Yeah.
Like, I can tell why they carry guns. Like, y'all can't fight worth the shit.
You're afraid to take an ass whooping.
Exactly. I mean, nowadays, if it's gonna be on World Star, like somewhere on Twitter, I'd be scared to take an ass whooping too. Like if you take a real bad loss and that shit is a meme now. Imagine if Bobby made a meme about you getting your ass whooped. That should be crazy.
That's the worst thing. Donald Rawlings said that's the worst thing you could be is to become a meme.
Exactly.
You don't want to do that. Looking like Cat Williams get knocked out by a teenager or some shit like that. Like,
and then somebody takes a picture and that shit's with you forever.
Yeah, I got enough problems. I'm just trying to figure this shit out.
Exactly.
So
not doing that shit.
Yeah, growing up, like you said, there was like a handful of white people around, like on your block in the neighborhood. Like, how were they viewed? Was it just like another neighbor? Was it viewed with any kind of apprehension? You know what I mean? Because
not really. That was just white boy Mike. That was that was Danny. That was Brett. It was just that. They grew up like us. We had similar interests. We obviously knew what they were. They knew they were that they didn't look like us. Mm-hmm. But we embraced them. We didn't shun them because they were white or because they were different or because they grew up below the poverty line or whatever the fuck the case was. It was just like, yo, that's the homie. He come around every now and then. That's just white Mike. That's them. We embraced them. We didn't purposely shun them. We didn't pick on them. That's one thing in my neighborhood. We didn't purposely pick on people. Like, we bullied the bullies, but we didn't pick on like the harmless kids or like the kids that was cool. Like, if you was cool, you was down with everything. It wasn't really nothing to shun them for. Everybody got along until it was time to not get along. Whether it was we had a disagreement, it was never about race. It was always just something dumb, young boy stuff.
Excuse me. I was lucky that it was kind of this. It was the same thing where I grew up. It wasn't until I got older that I started seeing people use race as a motivation to bully people or to treat someone different.
Yeah.
But so where I come from in the suburbs, it's there's all different types of white people's reactions. Because being a majority white, anytime someone who wasn't white, who wasn't one of us, so to speak, anytime someone was kind of around, the people were either they were met, they're kind of like, all right, I've got to keep my eye on this guy. I don't know what he's about. B, it was just completely neutral, where it's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah, all right, get in line. You're next. Yeah. Or C, there was like the people that would try to go out of their way and be welcoming and try to, and it could come off patronizing or like trying to like placate. It's like, oh, like I'm one of the good white people. Like don't be mad at me. Like they. But
I mean, we got that from teachers a lot. Because the school that I went to was maybe 3 blocks away from the hood. So we got that from teachers a lot, where they would try to be like, you could tell who was trying and who was genuine. So, they tried to relate to us like, with like basketball or some shit, because that's the blackest thing they know, or like rap music. They would try to, name an artist or like try to play some music when it was like a Friday or something like that. it was, you could tell who was like, like the movies where it's like the white teacher comes and like saves the whole school from like,
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer. What was that other shit with the poems? What was that fucking movie? I forgot. It was like there was like a debate club or some shit like I don't know.
Oh, was that's the one, The Great Debaters with Denzel? No, that's not it.
No, what the fuck? I think of it probably all fair for some, but still, it was like you can tell who was there, like just because for a check and like, oh, I gotta relate to these black kids somehow so I can get through this day and go home. And you could tell who really like cared if you passed or failed, if you know what's going on at home, type of thing. You can tell who was there just to collect their money and go and just run back to the suburbs.
See, it's a touchy thing too, because there's definitely people who have, I think, the right intentions, but they don't know how to execute that. Like
at all.
It's kind of like the thing like Romany Malco was saying in 40-Year-Old Virgins, like you're putting the pussy up on a pedestal, It's like they're making it out to be so much bigger and so much scarier than it needs to be. But realistically, it's like they're just fucking people. Like you don't have to make this into like a big situation. Just treat them like human beings. I don't know, for a start. So
I mean, yeah, bare minimum.
yeah. But it's something like, I guess it comes back to like a white guilt kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, which is weird because even that, I think, technically really comes from a good place. Like, it's like, okay, I realize that people that look like me did some pretty horrific shit in the past, and I don't want to be associated with that, so I'm going to try to be the complete opposite. I'm going to try to be a good person. I'm going to try to go out of my way to help people that, maybe didn't have the same opportunities as me. But there's so many situations where it comes off sounding phony, feeling fake and forced. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, have you seen examples of that? Oh, look, my Google's turned on.
It was Hilary Swank and it was the Freedom Riders.
Okay.
That's the movie I was talking about. I mean, you see that all the time because, they don't, like you said at the beginning, like people are walking on eggshells. So they want to, tread lightly because, they've either heard the stories, they saw the movies, they fear what they don't understand. So it comes to a point where they like they just don't know what to do because they're used to a certain environment. Like they're used to growing up in their bubble with white kids. Like the first time that they actually encountered black people or black kids was when they come to this school, and this just happens to be the only school with openings, or like it just happens to be like, oh, we need a substitute, and this is the only opportunity that they have to interact with us. Knowing that you could have done this at any point in time. I don't know what they're what they have to go through in order to be assigned to a certain school, but they should have to go through some type of training, some type of knowing the kids in the neighborhood, knowing what you're going to get into, knowing what's going to happen. Just white people in general, you don't really, like where I'm from, you don't really run into those. We're always looked at it as like a charity case. You see them like very seldomly, and you could tell it's like bullshit when they come through.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like with those, you don't get the greatest turnout, you don't get the greatest reaction. But when you can tell, it's like, you can tell like this teacher has been teaching here a while. They care about the students. They care about the community. You see them on just a random off day, just doing something in the hood, whether it be like something with a project, whether it be like, gardening or just like an outreach program or something. Like you can tell the ones that just want to help, not because you can tell the ones that want to help, not because we're black, just because we're underprivileged type of thing. So it wasn't always about race. It was just like, I want to help these kids who don't have the best circumstances, who don't have the chances that I had to get somewhere. It's not, I want to help these black kids so it look good on my resume.
Yeah, I mean, it's complicated because
very
depending on where you're getting your information from, if you look in social media or the media, you hear things like elevate black voices or support black businesses. And, it's things like that are specifically a racial thing. It's specifically about race, but it's all tied together. It all comes back from, historic disenfranchisement and people not getting the same opportunities as other.
Right.
But I feel like people aren't able to parse those things, especially when it's, there's a lot of white people that come from a place where there's just no black people at all. Right. And you could tell those people a mile away.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like the people that are like shockingly, painfully white, which I can say as a white dude. But you know what I mean. Like, there's the people who just, I've heard a rap song when I was young, but I mostly listened to, Panic at the Disco. My dad's a big Hank Williams fan.
Yeah, so we always on guard. When shit like that happens, we're just on guard and we're looking twice. We don't trust you, because we know it's not genuine. We know you don't fuck with us. We never seen you here before. We never heard anything about you. We kind of know what you're about before you open your mouth. So it's like, take that shit somewhere else. We're not a fucking charity case. Like, take that shit somewhere else.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example of how even having good intentions can have a completely, counterproductive effect. Because if you're not really genuine, you don't really understand what you're doing, you're just going to turn people away, and people aren't going to trust you ever now. Which is, it all just comes back to that. I think that white guilt. It's like, I want to be a good person. I want to do the right thing. But you're never actually taking the time to understand people as human beings. You're only looking at it from an outside perspective. You're only looking at, what you've seen on TV. Take the time to actually talk to somebody in person. You know what I mean? Like,
have you ever been in those circles where, like, you're around a bunch of your white friends and then they say something about black people?
Yes.
Where it's like, either it's racist or it's demeaning or it's just,
Yes, I have.
Damn.
Yeah. And it wasn't until I got a little older and grew a set of balls that I learned to push back on that shit. Because like I was saying, as a young man, you're afraid to make waves, like, fuck. Like,
yeah.
I got to deal with this guy now. But as I got older, you stop giving a fuck. He's kind of like, yo, man, don't come around here with that, because just because you believe that doesn't mean I believe that.
Right.
So don't just automatically think I'm going to co-sign this fucking bullshit, this fucking redneck idiotic bullshit.
I thought it was a safe space because you're white.
Yeah, but that's my point, is that people they judge me based off how I look, in the sense that they think like, oh, he'll be all right. Like, I could say it around him.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think it's until we as white people learn, like, if you're not about that, you can't just let it slide, because it's just going to make people think, yeah, if there's more people that think like me, I could say it around these. It's just, you can't just let it go unattended, or, you can't let it go without pushing back on it, because otherwise, you're co-signing it.
I mean, but what's the worst that can happen, though? Are you, like, outcasted by the majority? Like, do they look at you like, just,
So I'll give you an example. In construction, like my line of work, unfortunately, I work with a lot of guys who aren't exactly road scholars, not exactly the smartest, not exactly the sharpest tools in the shed. But there's a lot of guys who have a lot of backwards ways of thinking. And if you work on a crew, like most crews that I've worked on have been majority white. Like, there's actually all crews have been majority white, with the exception of one where I was the only white guy, which was actually pretty fun. I got to admit, everybody was cool.
Right.
See? Shout out to Ray, my foreman. Ray taught me a lot. But yeah, there's guys, and all you have to do is open your eyes for 2 seconds, and you can see that these guys are treating anybody that's not white differently. And to be honest, they're treating them worse. Like, there's no two ways about that. They think this guy doesn't know nothing. Like, they give him the shitty jobs, or they don't trust him to do any real work, or they're the first to get laid off. And it's like, you think that nobody's noticing this stuff, but this is a pattern. It's a pattern with you guys.
Right.
And the problem is, if you call them out on that, now your name is the first one on the list to get laid off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because when it's somebody who has some kind of authority or power, now they have power over you. So that puts you in a very uncomfortable spot. So, what do you do?
Yeah.
Do you sacrifice your the money? Do you sacrifice the well-being of your wife and kids? It's a tough one. I mean, morally, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Ordinarily, it's a no-brainer, but when it comes to, when you take in the other intangibles, it's like, you got to pick your battles.
Yeah. It's unfortunately, I found that in life, there's some things that you kind of, for the good of the other people in your life that you care about, you have to swallow some shit. You have to eat a little shit. What if I want
all the smoke, though? Sometimes I want all the smoke.
Hey, that has happened. That has happened on several occasions. There's guys that just say, fuck this. A guy I worked with named Dre. He it was a similar situation to what they were talking about with NASCAR, where the guy Bubba Wallace, they said he found a noose in the garage. like he said he found a noose on the job site in like a room around the corner from where he was working. Now, I mean, I don't know that anybody was even working around there to have made it, but I can't say anything because I wasn't, I was on a different floor.
Yeah.
But he said, yo, this is bullshit. So, I mean, we had no choice. We all had to take it serious. We had the business agent from the union come down. Like, he had to talk like, listen, guys, what the fuck? Like, what is going on here? There's been situations where guys, in the Porta Johns, there's all kinds, everybody, all these guys write racist shit in the Porta Johns. Oh, Trump 2020, you know what I mean? But it's, clearly, that's the, the scholarly blackboard for a lot of these big thinkers we have on the job.
Yo, white people are so bold, but they're not bold in your face.
That's true.
That shit always makes me laugh when y'all, either it be on the internet in like lobbies, y'all will say the N-word a mile a minute, y'all will do some shit in secret. You got the KKK, y'all wear the mask proudly, y'all won't show y'all face. But when it comes to the face-to-face, y'all don't want none of that because I remember it was I think it was a story about like it was two white kids, they was beating up black kids in a neighborhood, but it was like a minority black neighborhood. They wouldn't come to the fucking Harlem or Bronx and do no shit like that. It's like,
course.
At some point you can't do nothing but laugh because like y'all want to be racist so bad, but y'all so pussy that y'all not gonna put in the extra work. You're like, hey, I'm gonna just go all out with my racism. I'm gonna go to Harlem, Brooklyn. I'm gonna go to Bridgeport or New Haven and do that shit. Y'all be safe with y'all racism. Well, not y'all, but them.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the oldest story in the book. Yeah, everybody's tough when they got a bunch of people standing behind them.
You ain't shit without your homeboys.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, I'm someone I know. We've only known each other for just over a year now, and it's been entirely via text message and Zoom podcasts and stuff.
Right.
But I try to make it clear, like when I talk, when I have, this podcast, like that's something that I'm actively trying to fight against. That's something that I want to not be associated with in any way, shape, or form. And I don't want there to be any gray area where there's any people where it's like, I don't want there to be any question about it. You know what I mean?
Shit about me.
But there's always that line like we were talking about where it comes off as placating, where it comes off as, not genuine. So that's always a struggle, I feel like, because I don't know, a lot of it may be, internal myself. Like, do I sound like a fucking poser here? Do I sound like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I don't know if this was a thing like in your school growing up. Like for us, there was always the white kid who, it's like he wanted to be black, like he wanted to wear those clothes, and he only listened to rap. And you know what I mean? He talked different. He code switched, but he didn't really talk like that.
That wasn't what he was about. He was from the other side of the tracks. Nah, that wasn't him.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like there was those guys.
Definitely know what you mean.
And I feel like it was always the palest kid too, if you noticed.
It was always the lily white, just the really like zero sun.
Yes.
Fucking vampire skin, just powder white.
Yeah. It's like the guy just like is coming off his albinism. Like,
it was the craziest shit. I was like, yo, you had something to prove because you was that white.
Yeah. But I mean, looking back, in school, we were all trying to figure out who we were. So I couldn't really fault somebody too much for that, especially if that's, you like what you like. You can't help that. Like, I can't help that my mom grew up listening to, like, Marvin Gaye and friggin' Donna Summer in the car, and, I bought an Earth, Wind, and Fire CD, and she said, oh, you stole that from me. What the fuck you mean I stole it from you? It's mine.
I learned this shit from you. I ain't steal it.
Like, I stole it myself from Barnes & Noble. That's not, I didn't steal it from you. Shit.
Oh, shit.
True story. That actually happened. I mean, I probably shouldn't say that on the podcast, but, yeah.
It was the CD tape or vinyl?
Oh, no, it was a CD.
Oh, okay.
It was the essential Earth, Wind, and Fire. The 20th Century Masters collection.
Oh, shit. That shit must have been like 95 or something like that.
Well, no, this was like 2006.
Oh, shit.
When I got it. Listen, I did a lot of like retroactive like learning about music, all throughout my 20s and early 30s.
I think we all did, man.
Yeah, there's so many things I was just late to. Like I was mad late to A Tribe Called Quest. Like super late.
Yeah.
But then going back, I'm like, Jesus Christ, where was I? Like, was there anything that you look back that you were like real late to the party on?
Oh man, I really like a lot of white music. I really like, Hall and Oates, like Bruce Springsteen, shit like that. I really like a lot of white music. And then it wasn't cool to like white music, when you were young. So if you liked rock and roll or you liked pop music, like I can't count how many times I was like, yo, this fucking NSYNC song, go. But you can't say that out loud to your like you can't bring the NSYNC CD to the hood. You got to bring the D Block CD. You can't do that.
That's not a black and white thing. That's just like a guy thing. As a guy, you can't say that. It might
be a guy thing, but it was like, damn, you gay and white. Damn. I mean, it's sometimes it's a thing where, my grandfather got arrested, so he used to listen to everything. He used to listen to it would be like Al Green. It would be like Sheryl Crow. It would be like, the Temptations. Then it would be like, what's the hell? Celine Dion. It would be like a range of everything. And riding in a car with him when he used to do his shit, I would just get like an influx of just like whatever he felt at the time I would listen to. My mother was the same way. She used to listen to Luther. She used to listen to George Michael. She used to listen to what's a bunch of people, I can't think of the goddamn name right now, but she used to have like a plethora of stuff too. More so when the 90s came around, when I got into like my hip hop phase, wasn't really too much. It wasn't really a lot of white acts to begin with, but it wasn't too much to really pick from if they were out. But other than that, it was just a lot of stuff. I was late to the party too. When you get older and you actually look back at, like, when you sometimes, like, I'll Google like the top songs of like an era or like a year, like 1975 top songs or whatever, and like I got a couple on my iTunes right now. Let me see if I could find some like Billy Idol, fucking. Okay.
I'm gonna tell you a story real quick while you're looking that up. So I remember my biological dad, who I don't speak to anymore. He used to have a boat. And we were on the boat on the Delaware River, and we were riding by some place where it was like a concert hall, kind of like an outdoor venue. And my dad was real big into like smooth jazz and like all kinds of stuff like that. And I remember he could hear the music. Like, we stopped the boat, and we could hear it was fucking George Benson. You know who I'm talking. You know George Benson.
Yeah.
And I remember he told me, he's like, "Oh, George Benson, he's the best that ever did it." And I remember that. I just remember that sticking with me. I was like, "Really?" Like, I never heard you listen to him. He's like, "No, George Benson is the best. Hands down, he's the best." I was like, wow, okay. And I remember that's when I started looking up, like, George Benson. I heard, like, Turn Your Love Around. I was like, oh, man. Okay, I see what Dad was talking about. But we used to have the Thriller cassette tape, and he used to drive around in a pickup truck when I was real young, like kindergarten age. Might even a little younger, because that came out, 84? Thriller?
Thriller was on it wasn't Off the Wall album.
No, Thriller was Off the Wall was like 82, I think. Even earlier than that, maybe.
I think Thriller was on the second album.
No, Thriller was on the Thriller album.
It was on Thriller. Yeah, okay, you're right. Yeah. Yeah, so Off the Wall, and then it was Thriller, and then it was
Bad, and then Dangerous.
Yeah. That's when it went off the rails a little bit.
There's a couple slappers on that.
It's a couple on there, but like that wasn't like peak Mike, where it was like Earth Song and like all the hits that we know.
Yeah, that was when Mike himself started to go off the rails a little more.
Yeah, with like the nose jobs.
Yeah. The song In the Closet, everybody was like, "Ooh, what is this about?"
Yeah,
like, I don't know. Maybe he has a kid in there. I don't know.
Maybe he has a kid in there. God damn.
So I'll be a little wild on this episode, but anyway.
But yeah, it was it was Wayne Newton, it was LeAnn Rimes. I remember Hootie and the Blowfish. We didn't know that dude was black, the fucking lead singer. We didn't know he was black. Billy Joel, Bruce Springsteen. That's really opened up like my pop bag. Who was the white dude that sung the really black song?
Rick Astley.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody thought he was black, and they saw him like, what?
Yeah, it was like, yeah, what the fuck? Like, this white man got a little bit of soul in him. Like,
I didn't know Alfred E. Newman sang.
Yeah, this motherfucker had some collard greens before, something. He's
English too.
Yeah, that's the crazy shit.
It's funny. There's a lot of like real like soulful music. especially nowadays, like young, like real white English kids are making this like super like soulful stuff, and like wow, I guess they get it over there apparently. I don't know, but I don't even know where I was going. I lost my train of thought. Yeah, we're saying Thriller, but the white the white kid that acted that tried to be black, like what he thought was what black was. But realistically, like you look around, especially where I'm from, like yeah, there was like the black guys that kind of were the more stereotypical like hood quote unquote, and then there was the guys that were just normal, like my friends Laquan and Rashawn. They've been on the podcast, like they're normal dudes. Like I mean, they make hip hop beats in their spare time, but they're regular guys. They're football
names
players.
Don't get no blacker than that Laquan and Rashawn.
I know.
No black.
And they're twins.
Yeah.
Like I feel like there's so many people that are just so locked in their own little world, their little bubble, and they never, even branch out a little bit. Like it's amazing how much you could learn. Like one of my friends growing up, my friend Aaron. Like when I was like middle school age, like I had my friend Eddie, who's Mexican. My friend Aaron was black. My friend Christian was Korean, and then there was me, and that was like the four of us. So we had this little group where we would always play WCW versus NWO on N64.
The multicultural band.
Yeah, and it wasn't like obviously there wasn't a conscious thing. It was just like an organic friendship. And friendships come and go, different groups come and go. And I definitely think high school is one of the things that really kind of forces people apart when they're young.
That's when you start seeing cliques.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the cliques I saw in high school, they weren't really race based. They were really more like just status. It was like the football team, the jocks, the emo kids, the cool kids, the nerds, and it was a whole slew of people. Me and Hesh might have fell in a couple groups,
Yeah, we called the emo kids and like the heavy metal kids and the punk kids. We just lumped them all. We called them scene kids. They're part of the scene.
Scene kids.
So that was a painfully white group. I didn't realize until I got in. I'm like, wait, you guys?
Yeah, but the thing with Bridgeport, it was majority like black and Spanish. It wasn't really like a lot of white kids. Like the white kids in my school, they really like shifted between a lot of groups. Like they might have been in like every group down there where it was like the cool kids, the jocks, the emo kids, the weird kids, the cool kids. They was just here and there. But I dealt with mostly black people in those groups. It was like a sprinkle of white people.
Well, Dave Chappelle, you remember like the old Killing Them Softly? Dave Chappelle was talking about like every group of black dudes always has like the one white friend.
One white friend, yeah, you need him.
And that's the guy, like, you got to watch out for that guy because there's no telling what that white dude did to get those black dudes respect.
Yeah. Goddamn right, because it's been a couple white boys in my hood, shout out to Mike. I think Mike is still in jail for some shit.
Damn.
But, he grew up in the hood. He was the white dude that was, getting down. He was a cool white dude, and he got caught up in some shit, had to do what he had to do. Now he sitting down, but, shout out to Mike. But it was like, when Mike went to jail, we respected his family more. So it was like, nah, chill. That's up Mike's sister. Chill out. Nah.
It's all weird. I don't know. I feel like that's my go-to starting point whenever I'm about to say a new sentence. Yeah, it's weird or it's complicated.
Yeah, but at least those white kids knew to never say the N-word.
Yeah. Well, see, now here's a weird thing because depending where you're from, like you guys talked about this on your show, like, some people are cool with it, some people are not. And if you're not sure, you got to play it safe. Like I'm not someone who's ever been in a situation where that was okay. So that's been my approach. My mentality is like, oh, don't say that. Like,
yeah, right.
But there's, especially like Hispanic people, like depending on where you're from, they say that shit constantly. But it's, and it's like, it's like a cognitive dissonance. Again, it's like, well, wait, I thought this was not allowed. And this guy is using it left and right. Am I going to get in trouble for this? Like just for being around him? You know what I mean? Like it's weird. What's your stance on that? On non-white people and non-white or black people using the N-word?
Well,
like
first
Asians
of all,
or Hispanic.
First of all, I feel like every human has said the N-word at least once. Where it was like, I want to, either it was in a song or it was like, I just want to say it, no one's around, N-word. And it was like, all right, cool. But, you know, people, like I said before, where like a lot of non-black people or like white people, they'll be tough around their group. But when you get into a space where it's a bunch of black people, you know to watch your step. How I feel about it, I mean, for example, if Mike would have said it, I wouldn't have felt no type of way because we grew up with Mike. We know he down. We know he don't mean no malice behind it. But it's like I go back and forth with this, where it's like I don't want anybody to say that's not black, but then it's like if certain people say it, I'm not offended. So I'm kind of on the fence with it. If I was to give an overall statement, I would just say, even we shouldn't use it as much as we do, but it's kind of like we just take lemons and turn the shit into lemon. Like we make lemon meringue pie, we make lemon stew, we make everything with these fucking lemons that we got. So it's like if we could turn this word that's been disgusting, nasty, been meant to degrade us all these years, and we could turn it into a term of endearment, some shit that sounds cool, the shit that it makes you want to say it. Like you probably want to say it. Asians want to say it, Spanish people want to say it. White people want to say it, and it's just like, at the end of the day, why do you want to say it? Are you saying it as a term of endearment, or do you just want to be down with the clique? Do you just want to be down with us because we made it cool?
I think it's the second option for most people. I mean, the people that are saying it, you know, from a hateful perspective, they're not gonna pause before they say it. They're just gonna say it.
Yeah, they're gonna say it.
They're gonna let that hard ER fly. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it flies often.
It's amazing how often it does. That's something I want to get into next, but like it really is a thing where like we talked about, like a lot of the people that we look up to or we love, like celebrities, you know, even people like friends of ours, you hear them say it, and it to a certain extent, you know, it does seem cool, but if you look at it from a completely logical standpoint, you know, just taking a step back, taking coolness or whatever out of it, of all the things that have happened throughout history to people in different races and everything, all the terrible things, the good things, everything. If all you're being asked is to not say one word,
one,
is that really a big ask? That's the way I look at it. Is that really
full of words? A thesaurus full of words. Everything. There's like words. They add a new word to the Webster's dictionary like every fucking month. We ask you to not say one word, and it bothers you so much that we're telling you what to do, that you feel that strongly about either your amendments or just the fact that, you know, no one can tell you what to do. You just one word. That's it. You don't please don't say it. If you do, there might be consequences. Just one.
That's just like the mask thing. All you say, just put this little piece of cloth over your face. That's it. It's not too much to ask.
We're not asking you to fucking gorilla glue it to your face for all of eternity. We're just asking, hey, while you're in the store, wear the mask. You know,
and guess what?
Courtesy.
Guess what? If the mask, they say it doesn't work, what's the worst that happened? You have a fucking mask on. Maybe you look a little stupid. That's it. That's the whole extent of it. And that's too much for some people. But that's a perfect example of people, they just don't want to be told what they can and can't do. And they're going to kick and scream until, you know, whatever, until they either get their way or they have no voice left and they fucking die. I don't know.
Everybody don't understand words. Everybody understands a punch. When some violence or some pain comes into it, I'll put on the mask. Cool. You know, but you just saying it verbally doesn't get across to everybody.
I just saw a video the other day. Some old lady was like, they were in like a Staples, and the chick next to her at the copy machine wasn't wearing a mask. So the old lady's trying to tell her put a mask on. She's like with a cane and everything. And she's like going to poke the girl with the fucking cane. Yeah. And the girl just, fucking lady fell down, breaks her leg. And it's like, how do we feel about that? Because it's like, should have been wearing a mask. But it's like, do you really want to be the one that has to go around telling everybody? Because everybody understands that punch in the face.
I mean, it's just like she was just being nice, trying to do something. Like she's just trying to make sure you don't kill her or nobody like her. She was like, damn, like this whole, like you're not the only one going through this. Like the whole planet, or it seems like now, like all of America is just going through this shit because the whole world seems to have got the point except America. But it's just like we're all going through this. Just help
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're just asking you to do this shit. We're not asking you to do this shit. Like I said, we're not asking you to glue this shit to your face for all of eternity. It's just like, while you're in the store, 5, 10, 15 minutes while you're doing your thing, wear a mask, wear a covering, wear something, just so if you happen to have this or if someone around you has it, you're somewhat protected, or you are. It was just, I don't know. People are dumb. I don't know.
No, I'm not going to argue that.
I can't call it nowadays.
Well, that's the thing. It's not even for you, the one wearing the mask. It's for everybody else. So if you have it, you don't spread it. But like, if that's not motivation enough, like, I don't know how to explain to you why you should care about other human beings. You know, I don't know how much simpler can it be. Like, yeah, you shouldn't be an asshole. Like,
nobody gives a fuck until it affects them directly. I've noticed that. Nobody gives a fuck about shit until it directly affects them. So it's like, you know, we could hear about like a natural disaster. It was like, I don't give a fuck about that shit. Don't happen here. But then when Hurricane Sandy came, now everybody's like, oh, we need more relief and we need this, that, and the third. Now you give a fuck about a hurricane, right? Okay, cool.
Yeah, you see all these people, they're all like anti-mask warriors, and then next thing you know, they're laid up in the hospital, they got COVID, and guess I messed up, huh?
Shout out to
no
Hurricane.
shit. Yeah, but you know, that's another thing, like conflicted emotions. Like, hey, you're out there talking shit, like this is what happens, but I don't want to see somebody die. Like, that's still a sad thing. But it's like,
but you
brought it on yourself.
Yeah, I don't feel bad if you could have prevented your death, but you know, it's the Darwin effect. You know, it's just it's Darwinism, natural selection, man.
So, you're getting back to the big black-white divide here,
right?
How do you feel about the people that are out there? You know, they say they're trying to make a difference, or trying to show support. You know, especially in the past few months, we've seen, you know, the big protests and everything. Like, what's your stance on the well-intentioned white people that are out there? Because if you look, like, I mean, shit, look at what's going on in Portland. You know, it's like the fucking whitest city in America.
Right.
Protesting for Black Lives Matter.
Right.
You know, and then there's like a handful of black people standing on the side, like, all right, you know, we didn't ask for all this. Like,
I mean, I feel like white people specifically, are slowly but surely getting it. We still have a long way to go, but I feel like they're getting it. So the white people that are on the front lines, that are allies, that do speak up when they need to, it is very comforting. It doesn't feel forced. You know, the people that are out there on the front lines that can be, I mean, there have been instances where white people have been killed supporting Black Lives Matter during protests, during riots, during just, you know, peaceful protests. It's comforting, and it makes us feel good that we know we have someone on that end that understands us. Like, you know, it's just not a blanket statement that Black Lives Matter. Like, a lot of people still don't get it, and they're not racist. Like, they just don't understand the term Black Lives Matter. They just take it as we're saying that only Black Lives Matter. But the few that do get it, they try to educate the ones that don't. You know, more often than not, I see that they actually understand when it's coming from someone else that looks like them. So we definitely need more allies. We definitely need more representation. We definitely need, you know, the oppressors to speak up for the oppressed. You know, when, you know, I want to thank you as well, because I saw you out there on the front lines. You were protesting in your city, and, you know, you always fuck with us. And it's just like, that's comforting. That's dope to see, where it's like, you don't have to, because, you know, this isn't happening to you or your people. So for you to actually take your time out and be like, hey, I know that this is wrong, and I want to do something about it, even though that it doesn't directly affect me, it affects people I know, people I love, people I support, people that, you know, it just as a regular human emotion. I just know this isn't right for mankind. And for people to go out there and it has nothing to do with them is the best thing. It's the best feeling that I can think of. Because you don't have to do shit. You can just stay home and be like, hey, you know, they got it. Black people got it. You know, they could, you know, take care of themselves. But then it's like, no, we need allies. We need white people that understand and get it, and that just get the overall goal and the meaning of it, just to say something and be seen and be heard.
So one of the things is that I found, all right, for example, like I listen to Brilliant Idiots. Okay. If you go on their comments on like their Instagram and all this shit, there's the people that say, "Oh, Charlemagne's racist," because of the stuff that Charlemagne says about white people. If I said that about a black person, then I'd be called a racist. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, we get that across the board, though.
No, I know, but one of the things that I found is that sometimes I feel like, it's a conflict internally. It's like it kind of does. Like some of the things that I hear kind of does sound a little racist. You know what I mean? And there's, you hear people if you go on Twitter where you get the fucking fringiest people that are all over the fucking place, they'll be like, oh,
right.
well, there's no such thing against racism against a white person.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, can we be a little serious now? Like,
right. Yeah. Like,
but I'm not the kind of guy I want to go around trying to be a victim myself. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, there are people racist against me, clutching my pearls, because I think that's, for the most part, bullshit. I think that there are people that don't realize the things they say have an effect on other people, and I don't know, maybe I feel like if I listen to a podcast with all black people, okay, I'm not talking about you guys, like for instance, like Bully and the Beast, like I love Wax, like I like listening to his show, I listen to Wax and L'Oreal, but sometimes I get the feeling listening to that show that it's like, okay, well, clearly, I mean, I'm not the target demographic here for listeners. Right. Like, I know this isn't really necessarily for me. So, sometimes stuff gets said where I'm like, that does make me feel some kind of way. Like, I'm someone, I'm trying to be a good person, trying to do the right thing. And I feel like that there's people that still they would approach someone that look like me with, with suspicion. And like, oh, well, you're just another white guy. And, because you see all these prime examples of white people doing fucked up shit, like everywhere you look. So as the second I have that feeling, like, wow, well, I kind of feel attacked, and I'm like, that's why. I get it.
Yeah.
Understood. It's that back and forth. Like, what do you think about all that little stream of consciousness that just came out of my stupid head?
I mean, everybody can be racist. White people can be racist against black people and vice versa. Spanish people a lot of times are racist against their own, whether it be darker skin or lighter skin. Everybody can. Everyone
Cubans.
Everyone can be racist. There's no in between with it. Just because we are the oppressed or have been the oppressed doesn't mean that we can't be racist. Everyone has that in them to be racist, to say something like, damn, that was pretty fucked up against a certain race or a certain ethnicity or whatever. It's to me, it's all across the board. Everybody likes to use the excuse that, oh, black people can't be racist because that's a power struggle between the oppressed and the oppressor. I was like, no, everyone can be racist. You can say some shit out your mouth that can offend a white person, just like they could say some shit that can offend you. And, you get it from, it's not even like always just blacks against whites. Like the first time I was called the N-word wasn't even from a white person. It was from a fucking Spanish person. So it's not even like, it's all across the board. You can be racist: white, black, Asian, Spanish, black, brown, white, yellow, whatever.
Now, and I want to be clear. Like, this is not me trying to like, oh, this stuff happened to me too. Like, it's not one of those situations. This is something that I've seen, surprisingly a lot more than I would have ever expected. Like from white people saying, oh, well, they're racist against me because of this, that, and the other thing. It's like, I think you're kind of confusing what the term is. And then they point to these like kind of these examples where it's like, okay, I see what you're saying. Not really the same thing. Like, nobody really has any power over you. You feel offended that somebody made a joke at your expense.
Right.
It's a typical example of every black comedian that does the white guy voice.
Yeah. So that's the stereotypical white person voice. I mean, we do it. Everyone does it to everyone. It's never right when it's done. But black people feel like they have more of a right to be racist because it's been done to us so much that we feel the right to do it to any and everybody. So that comes with the territory. Just expect it. Like I said, the first time I was called the N-word wasn't even a white guy. It was a Spanish. Well, to my face, it was a Spanish guy, and I didn't get it for the life of me because it was this older Spanish person who had half black grandkids. So I was like, why am I the nigger? Like, why me?
He was taking out his family trauma on you. Oh, he froze on me.
So you can't. So why am I the ER? And your son is just okay. He gets the pass because he's your grandson. But why am I the hard ER?
It's funny. I was talking to my wife, and we were talking about all like the Cubans in South Florida, how that Cubans specifically will lean way more to the right politically, just because a lot of them came from communist Cuba, and anything that smells like communism they want to run 100 miles away from. But they're all a lot of them are like Trump supporters, and it's like, yo, you don't watch what he's saying, like you ain't part of the group.
Right. Yeah.
He's gonna put you on the other side of the fucking wall. Like, what are you supporting this guy for?
Exactly.
It's like.
Recently, that man passed away, and it was kind of hard for me to feel sorry for him. So it was like, she had, because it was this girl I was dating, dad, and I had found out he passed away, and then like I gave her my condolences, whatever, but I didn't feel bad. I was just like,
did it more for her.
Yeah, I was like, all right, so it's one less racist here. Like I kind of felt bad, but I didn't. I was like, damn, she lost a dad, but he did call me a nigger, so I don't really give a fuck.
How close has like your any experiences with racism come to you? Like, how close to home has it hit? Because I know for me, it was something I've dealt with family members that just say something in passing, like, yo, why would you say that? Or like, I mean, I've talked about this before. My friend Mike on the podcast. When I was in high school, I wanted to take a black girl to the prom. It wasn't the prom; it was a dance. It was like the winter ball or something like that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to take a black girl, and I remember my dad and my stepmom, each individual, like independent of one another, like sat me down, like, I don't know if this is the best idea. Basically, I was like, why? What's the problem? And then they're like, we just people shouldn't mix. The sun sets in the west and rises in the east, and never the two shall meet. One of those stupid things. And it eventually came down to the point where my dad's like, listen, it's not happening. You're not doing it. And I was like, so then I didn't go. And you know how embarrassing that was to have to tell her, sorry, I can't go anymore.
I can't take you to the dance because you're black.
Yeah, like that. I think for me personally, that was a big turning point in my life. I think that was the point when I realized, like, yo, I gotta fucking stand up for myself here, because this is just.
But have they never seen A Bronx Tale?
Oh, they love A Bronx Tale. They love A Bronx Tale.
I'm like, what the fuck is the problem?
But that's my point. The same guy telling me George Benson was the best that ever did it is the same one telling me I can't go to the dance with a black girl.
They don't give a fuck until it directly affects them. You can watch it on screen, you can hear about it, but until it's my son, no.
Yeah. So, but anyway, sorry to steamroll ahead of you there. Well,
all good. Shit show. Do what you want.
No. You're a guest. Like, I want to be a good host here.
But what the fuck were you saying?
Oh, how close to home has your experiences of racism hit?
How close to home? Let's see. Well, it kind of has directly affected my family, not my immediate family, but like bloodlines past. Because I've heard a story because my grandfather is half white, and he was born in 1930 something. So that means, black and white relations weren't always looked at the best in that time.
Wasn't even legal back then.
Yeah, and he was like the middle kid. So my great grandparents probably got together when they was like 1920s or like early 1930s or whatever. So, I don't know if this story is true. I still got to fact check with my elders in my family. But I heard a story where my great grandfather went to the store and never came back. And it came out that he was killed because they knew he was with a white woman and had kids with a white woman. So I've heard that story a couple of times, but I never like really dug. It's like something like you overhear grown-ups talking when you're young, but I never really asked the questions to see what the fuck happened. And growing up, I always knew my grandfather was half white, but I never knew the white people in my family. Like I always knew his dad's side, never his mom's side. So there's a whole group of white people that I'm related to that I have no connection to. I don't know who they are, where they live, if they're alive, if they're well,
Could
nothing.
be me for all you know.
Exactly. I'm saying they're all across the country and people was fucking back in the day. So, never directly, nothing ever, nothing that I know of has entered my family. I know I've had to like sit down with my daughters and talk about racism, and it was like about their skin color. Cause I got one daughter that's dark skin and one that's light skin. And my daughter that's light skin said something to my dark skinned daughter one time, and I had to correct it like immediately. Like,
yeah,
we not letting that colorism shit fly, like at all. Like, and it was I don't know if it's something that she overheard or it was something that she just in her child brain just thought it meant nothing. And I just had to sit her down. Like, we had like a really long conversation about that shit. And it really bothered me to the point where like I was almost in tears because, you see that all the time online where like at first when I saw it online, actually, I thought it was like an all-going joke on like Twitter and Facebook where people would say something about like a dark skin and light skin thing with black people. But then like, you start seeing it like years and years going on. And I'm thinking like, I don't think this is a joke. Like, I think people really feel like because they're light skinned, they're better, and dark skinned people are, a certain way. And then you hear about it with Spanish people where they have the same thing where it's like, oh, darker skinned people aren't looked at as, they aren't put up on a pedestal, not a pedestal, but they aren't sometimes regarded as human beings sometimes.
That's 100% true. And it's funny that I've heard, I mean, I guess just, from my outside perspective, I've heard more stuff demeaning towards light-skinned black people than dark-skinned.
I mean, yeah,
like I've heard more people make fun of light-skinned than dark-skinned.
Yeah, because you associate light skin with being soft and dark skin with being tough. And that's the thing. That's another thing that we go through when, there was kids at our school because they were light skinned, because they were mixed race, that we thought they were soft and we thought they was punks. And then people would pick on them because they assumed because they are light skinned that they're a certain way. And it was never the case. You got
that beige rage comes out.
Beige rage comes out. You got light-skinned people that turn red and then they fight and they wind up knocking somebody out twice their size. You got dark-skinned people who can't throw a punch worth a lick. Everything that we assume about people is fucking stupid and rooted in just ignorance. Like, we don't, like I said at the beginning, we don't take the time to ask questions. We don't get to know nobody. We just go off like what someone else said and then we regurgitate it, and then it's just this passing down of just stupid shit. But, that's the closest it's probably come. I haven't, God willing, it doesn't happen to me or anyone that's close to me. But in this world we live in, I can only, it's only a matter of time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with the way things are going right now, I feel like it feels like things are so much more heated and the tension is so much higher and like the race relations have never been worse. But I actually think that it's the opposite. I think that this is like this older generation, the boomer generation, who's, not as woke as us, so to speak.
Right.
This is like their death rattle. You know what I mean? This is them, their final kicking and screaming before they fucking go off into the void.
Right.
And not a moment too soon. Sorry to be ageist, people.
Nah, but sometimes it's needed.
Yeah, I'm tired of old people being in the way. Like, motherfucker, you're not even going to be here in 20 years. Like, why do you have a say anymore?
Yeah, shut up! I'll punch you in your heart, you old bastard.
Hey, old man River, zip it or I'll break your hip. So, one thing, I know it's a little after the fact that this happened now, but the whole Nick Cannon controversy. I know you guys talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Man, I was feeling all kinds of ways about this. And I wanted to finally talk to somebody. Like, I'm listening to you guys address it on the show. I thought that Bobby, he actually hit the point that had been bothering me right on the head. And it was that, all the stuff he said, he's there with Professor Griff, the guy that's like too anti-Semitic for fucking Public Enemy, kicks him out. Right. Everybody was mad about the anti-Semitic stuff. There wasn't anybody saying, it's like, oh, well, you're saying that, the melanin in your skin is what gives you a soul. So logically, then a white person would have no soul. And it was like, well, like
they
nobody
were
says.
dogs and shit.
Yeah. It's like, if we're agreeing that, okay, so historically, people that look like me used to say shit like that, and it was used this like pseudoscience to justify them in the system of white supremacy. Okay, so now in 2020, I think any reasonable person can agree that that's flat wrong, horrific, disgusting, all of the above.
Right.
So if we're saying that it's wrong to talk like that, like why isn't any like where was the outrage about that? Like I thought that was what bothered me, that nobody really cared about that, and there was a lot of people that were saying like, oh, well, support Nick. It's like, really, support everything he said? Everything?
Right.
Like that to me, it made me feel like shit. Like, so I'm still looked at like a piece of shit. Like even if I'm trying to do the right thing, like. Really, that's how you see me? And that I think that was what bothered me so much, because I'm still coming from that place. I'm still that little white kid in middle school that wants to be down. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Like that kid is still in me. Maybe a bit more mature now, hopefully, not that much. But I think honestly, it hurt my feelings. I think that was what it really comes down to. It hurt my feelings.
I mean, it all boiled down to who made the bigger fuss. Was it the white people that made the bigger fuss, or was it the Jewish community that made the bigger fuss? They heard something that didn't go along with the rhetoric, and that might be true or might not be true. We don't know. It feels like Nick just regurgitated a bunch of things that he heard and really didn't do the research. But it all came down to who made the bigger fuss. If white people would have been up in arms, like, hey, you can't say this about us. This is wrong. This is racist. This is this, that, and the third. Then something would have happened from that community. But it seems like where it got back to the Jewish community first, and they spoke up, and they were loud, and they were, threatening companies, or they were, they used their influence and their power to, do what they had to do. And it was like, hey, we're not letting this fly in no shape, form, or fashion. And they took to action. That's the only thing that I saw, is like they made a big enough of a ruckus to where everyone took notice. It's just like Black Lives Matter and everything that's happening with George Floyd. This ain't the first time that a black person has been killed by the hands of the cops. It's just that the world, now it became this global thing. As soon as we started, going out there and making the right amount of noise, people give a fuck.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's funny because think about, if you look at all the people that are always like the white people saying, oh, well, that was racism against white people. It's never the people that are coming to it from a place of good faith. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
It's always the bullshitters like, oh, they're racist against me because, they don't want me to own 2 houses.
Yeah, doing some dumb shit.
But that's the problem, because you don't want to be lumped in with those people because they're full of shit anyway. So it's kind of like, well, if I said something, who would listen? You know what I mean? So I think that was another thing that kind of compounded onto it. And at the end of the day, it's like, does it really matter if my feelings were hurt? I'm a big boy. I'm going to get over it. I'm not, nobody hurt me.
That's the thing. You should be allowed to feel how you feel and voice that feeling. You can't just say, oh, it'll pass. It was done. It's water under the bridge. If we kept that mentality, nothing would get done. It was just like, oh, you just put on your big boy pants and keep moving. Yeah. We have to say these things when they happen. We have to address them when they happen, or nothing's going to get done.
Well, it goes back to that thing where it's, you want to say these things, but you also don't want to come off sounding like you're just trying to be a victim. You don't want to.
It's okay to be a victim sometimes.
No, I get that, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, like there's people that have it a lot worse than that.
You don't want to be the boy that cried wolf, but when it's time, you just want to say, hey, this made me feel some type of way. It's fucked up. I need y'all to correct this now. And then they corrected that shit right then and there. Yeah. So Nick Cannon is, gone from Viacom.
Well, I think another thing is that it's like everybody, I feel like everybody wants to feel appreciated. You know what I mean?
Right.
Everybody, whether they'll admit it or not, everybody wants that little attaboy, that pat on the head. Like, hey, you did a good job. It's like all the well-intentioned white people out there protesting in the last few months. At the end of the day, They just want to be seen as a good person, as doing the right thing.
Right.
So I think being a human being, I'm guilty of that myself. Like, I think
human white man.
Yeah, human white man. Thank you. As an NPC myself, I kind of felt it did make me feel, and I'm just shooting from the hip here, so bear with me. But it did make me feel like unappreciated, to put not to put too fine a point on it. It made me feel like the good things that I had tried to do didn't matter. That nobody gave a shit at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, I'm just another white person who looks like these people that fucked my people over for hundreds of years, thousands even. So, and as soon as you stop to think about it and to come at it logically, it's like, okay, don't get too caught up here. Okay, you're getting a little carried away. In my head, this is me. But yeah, like you said, I'm only human. I couldn't help the way that I couldn't help that that's the way I was feeling. And as soon as I sat down with it and chewed on it, it took me like a week, really, of just going back and forth, trying to put my finger on it. I was like, it is what it is. Like, he's just one person. And, the people that would co-sign that are, that would agree with that, I really can't do anything to change their minds. I can only try to be a good person and hope that, that matters to somebody. So,
right.
Yeah, that was something that got under my skin, and it took me a while to try to verbalize it and figure out how exactly I was feeling.
Yeah, but now you have a podcast and you're able to verbalize it, and hopefully you get some people that respond with those sentiments. So, hopefully you're not alone in that. I'm pretty sure you're not alone in that, but people get to hear what you have to say, and then they get to respond to that.
Yeah. But, I asked you to come on here. Like I said, you're someone, you have a lot of opinions. You're an intelligent dude. Like, you are used to talking about things. You're a podcaster. Right. You're a media personality. You're a content creator. So I wouldn't feel comfortable having this conversation with a non-person of color, another NPC. Like, I want, you know what I mean? Because I don't want it to just be two white guys sitting here talking like we know everything about the plight of black people in America. It's just, that's not productive.
That was the problem with Nick Cannon. He was talking to another black person about Judaism or Jews.
No,
that was the problem. Judaism. So yeah, that was the problem. When you're talking about a specific group of people, and one of those people from that group isn't around, whether you want to talk about LGBTQ people, race, if you don't have that person in the room, you're automatically at a disadvantage, and the conversation is going to go left, because you're going to assume some shit that's not true. You're going to say some fact that's what way you're going to say something that's not a fact that you deem as a fact, and that's always the problem. Like, you don't have someone from that specific group in there to either listen in on a conversation or to be a part of the conversation, and that's the problem that we have with everything. We want to have topics about race. We want to have them with all white people and what they should do for black people. No, why don't you have some black people in the room, they give you suggestions on what white people can do for them, not what you assume y'all can do for us or we want because we aren't in the room. You just go off of, I guess, what you hear or see. That's always the problem.
Let me bounce this off you. I heard somebody say this. It's like, as black people, you don't want to constantly be asked by your white friends, like, oh, what can I do to help? Where can I start? It's like, all right, yo, I'm not the authority on this. Like, I'm not the guy that you just mail in all your fucking letters to with all your questions and inquiries. Like, you don't want to be constantly bombarded with that by every white person you know. And that's completely reasonable, I think.
I mean, it's the fact that we expect them to know, and we have to come to the realization that not all these white people know, not everyone know, because you brought up Dave Chappelle earlier, and there was a joke, and I think it was Killing Me Softly, where it was like, look at this, honey, like look in the newspaper, like they're beating up niggas like hotcakes, and like it seems like they didn't know that was happening. That's not their world. That's not where they come from. So we expect people that aren't like us, that aren't going through the traumas, that aren't going through what we've been going through for 400 plus years. We expect them to know, but we can't expect them to know if this is not their everyday occurrence. Like, we have to be willing to teach. We have to be willing to, I guess, to educate, even though we're physically, mentally, spiritually tired and we don't want to educate, do your own fucking homework. We have to find it. We have to pull it from somewhere. We have to teach people, because some people really don't know. They just don't. and we always assume, because, you know, we have social media, we have TV, we have radio, we have word of mouth, we have newspapers, we have all these sources for, you know, information. We have books, we have history books, we have all this shit, and we just assume that people know. It's like, no, we need to give them our firsthand account. We need to, you know, either it was something that was taught and forgotten, because, you know, if you don't use something, you that you learned a long time ago, you lose it. It's just what?
That's the thing. We gotta do our part as well, because I mean, I get it. Like, if you come from an all-white town, you don't know any black people, it's not a surprise. You're not going to know what a black person would go through on a daily basis. But like you said, you know, it's 2020. We have social media. Like, even if you don't have any black friends in your Facebook, you know, friends list, like, it's out there. Like, it's past the point where you just don't know anymore. Like, it's time. We as white people need to be ready to learn and ready to hear those difficult truths that are uncomfortable, that make you feel like you're squirming in your seat. Because, listen, this is just the way it is. Like, we need to get past that initial barrier of discomfort. You know what I mean? Like, even this conversation, like, I feel like we're two friends talking about this, but it is a little awkward. It is, for me, it's uncomfortable, because this is stuff that, you know, we were always raised. You don't talk about this stuff in polite company. You know what I mean? Like, it always gets brushed under the rug. And, you know, when people don't have the difficult conversation, there's no growth. And I think that's one of the big problems, is that there's people that aren't ready to have that conversation. And they're, even whether they realize it or not, they're actively trying to avoid it. And that's only going to lead to the same problems that we've been going through forever. Like, we're never going to change until we have those growing pains.
Yeah, let me know if this is a bad example, right? Okay. So
hit me
with you know, white people asking us, what do we want, what do we need to do, and us not wanting to, I guess, educate you guys or just give like the history lesson, right? So, you know, like when you want to get into podcasting, you know that you want to do a podcast, right? But now you need to know what goes into making a podcast. You need to know, you know, the equipment you need, the software that you need, this, that, and the third, to have a successful podcast. So now you do your research on how to do a podcast. So now you have your mics, you have your camera, you have this, that, and the third. That's all we want you to do, is like, if you know that if you have the why, it's up to you to do the research on it. It's kind of like, you know, just racism exists. You know, we have countless videos of black people being slain by the cops. What can you do as a white person? Speak out, protest, legislation, you know, countless things. You know, I mean, if you want to take it to Twitter, you could do online stuff, you know, sign petitions, whatever. It's like the information is all here. You just have to be willing to do the work and not ask another podcaster like, hey, so what do I do to do a podcast? You just do the research yourself.
Well, I think that's an example of people hoping for a quick and easy solution, like something, oh, you know, you just go down to this building on a Saturday, you know, you hang out for an hour and you go home and you're good. You're an ally now. Like, right, yeah. You know, I feel like they want you to just tell them, no, it's okay. Now. You're a good person. you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's people, because like you said, the information is out there. It's 2020. It's a Google search away. It's
you don't
not
even have
that
to
hard.
type shit. You could just talk to Siri or whatever you Android people have.
If you're so inclined, easy. I'm an Android person.
I mean, that's kind of like racism. that's bottism, or like, what is it? Mechanism.
But I think that is the first step. You do your research. It's sitting on the toilet, search it on Google. You'll find a million articles. It's not that hard to find. Mm-mm. And then when you talk to your black friend or your acquaintance or, you know, the lady you work next to, it's like, that's the last step. That's the last step when you're not coming to it from a place of total ignorance. You know, when you talk to somebody as a human being and maybe you sit down and have lunch with them and, you know, maybe if they're so inclined, they tell you something like, okay, this is how that affected me. Like, this is something that I went through. And then it's like it makes it hit home because it's somebody you know. It's something that directs you much more directly, or impacts you much more directly. That's what I meant to say.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's a real person. It's not just somebody in a newspaper. It's not just a video on the internet.
Right.
That's honestly what I think. I mean, now that I'm looking back on my life, that's kind of how I did it. Like, I never really talked about this with my black friends. And then I read some books, I watched some documentaries, I read a lot of articles, I listened to people talk, listened to a lot of podcasts and interviews, and listen. I think that's actually probably the best advice, right? Listen to people and trust that they're not bullshitting you, like they're not making this shit up.
I mean, with the world that we live in, it's kind of hard to trust people, but at some point you got to let loose of the reins and just be like, all right, I'm willing to listen, whether it's bullshit or not. I'm willing to listen to the bullshit, I guguess. So
last time I trusted a black lady, she told me I was having sex with witches at night, and that's why I had ovarian cysts.
See, you just have to be willing to listen. At least you got to a conclusion, whether it was bullshit or not. You got somewhere.
Yeah, apparently, demon sperm is something we have to worry about.
Oh my fucking God, yo.
You know what I'm talking about.
I can't wait for God to hit this bitch with the biggest meteor. I swear to God, yo. I want this shit to be this. I want, since, this is what I want, right? Since scientists have ruled Pluto out of being a planet, I want Pluto to hit this bitch like, yeah, look at me now. That's all I want. Like, yo, just let us start over. Let us start from one, okay? Year one. Whether we bring back dinosaurs or the first organism coming out the water, something. Let's just hit the fucking reset button on this, because something ain't right.
Alien DNA in the world ain't gonna save you.
Something ain't right, B, and we need a reset. Somewhere we will left. I don't know if it was somewhere between like the 1300s and like the 1990s. I don't know. Something went wrong.
Well, I don't have a lot of other stuff written down. We got through most of my list of, like I said, free-floating consciousness that I wrote down.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to add on, any cherry you'd like to put on top of this conversation?
White people, stop being ignorant. Just, embrace us. We're not, scary. We're not, just, it's so easy
time
to
out,
have a
time out.
conversation.
The first time I saw DMX on MTV, he was a little scary.
No. I'm not talking about gangsters like real motherfuckers that you think could kill you, maim you. I'm talking about. I'm just saying, like, it's easy to have a conversation. Like, the best advice I probably got that wasn't from my mother is to learn about cultures that are not your own, or to learn about people that are not. Learn about things that have nothing to do with you. So whether it be women issues, white issues, gay plights. Just something that has nothing to do with you. When you start to see the world from someone else's eyes, that's when shit becomes a lot more clear. It's
amazing advice.
It's when you just put yourself in someone else's shoes, and then you start to get it, because I can't count how many times that, like, I'll see like a racist on TV that they'll have on a Trump hat, or they'll say something racist, and I just want to understand why you racist. I mean, past the part that you think that you're the superior race, why do you hate black people? Like, is there a reason? Like I could tell you why I hate certain people. Like, yo, he beat me up, he took my girl, he owed me money. Something like I could tell you why I hate specific people, white, black, or indifferent. But to wake up and just hate motherfuckers because they darker than you has always blown my mind. I don't get that shit. Like, I've yet to. I want to hear a reporter just ask why. Like, that's the only question they ask. Like, fuck these niggers. Why? Because they're black. Okay.
Can you break that down? Can you
break that down? Like, and they just never have an answer. Like, I don't. I for the life of me don't get it. So just keep an open mind and learn stuff that has nothing to do with you directly.
Yeah, I mean, it's empathy. At the end of the day, it's empathy, and I think that's something that our society is in a major shortage of. It's just empathy for people that aren't us or like us.
Yeah,
it's like we said before. I don't know how to explain to you that you should care about other people.
Yeah,
and whether it's you come from a totally ethnically homogenous society where everybody looks the same, or you just haven't been outside your hometown in 60 years.
Yeah. It's the easiest thing to do. but people don't want to take the time out their day to do it because it doesn't directly affect them. If you're white, you live in a dream. if you're black, you always got to be on guard. So it's like, we have no choice but to do this. You could just go on living your white life and just be fine.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's like the whole white privilege topic. There's people say, "Oh, I'm not privileged. Just because I'm white doesn't mean I had an easy life." It's like, no. Misunderstanding what this means.
Exactly.
We're not saying that you have an easy life, that it's just some fucking cakewalk for you. All we're saying is that of all the things making your life difficult, the color of your skin is not one of them. That's it. That's all white privilege is.
That's all white privilege is, man.
And it's amazing. There's, like I said, there's people that are not ready to have those difficult conversations, and then there's the people that are actively, putting their fingers in their ears, going, nah. You know what I mean? Like, there's people that just, they don't want to hear it because that's what they've believed their whole life. And to change their mind now, it's like, well, I don't even know who I am anymore.
Yeah, but if you're not ready now, then you're never going to be ready. Because if you're not ready while it's happening, you're never going to be ready.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know what to say to those people. I don't know how to reach them any clearer than, this episode, I think, was very illuminating to anybody who has not had conversations like this, or maybe doesn't have any black friends. It's not lucky enough.
I'm hoping they got something from this.
Well, this is for them, man. Like, I mean, I don't think this is really for you and me. You know, maybe I had a little thing I had to get off my chest about Nick Cannon, but that's about it. But I think that this is really for people that aren't around people that don't look like them, that don't speak the same language as them. You know what I mean? Like, this is for the people that need to get out of that little bubble. This even goes back to what I was talking about with my man Max. Like, leave home, travel, go see things that aren't like what you're used to. Like, it's amazing how much that opens your mind and changes your perspective. Yeah,
that was a good episode too.
Yo, seriously, Max has seen some shit.
Max is an interesting dude, man.
he's a funny dude. He was very fun.
You don't really put out a lot of bad episodes. Like, I haven't heard one episode that I was like, nah, that wasn't it, but it was cool. But like, you really put out like a lot of quality content. I want to give you that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. There's some that go out where I'm a little should I hit post? I don't know. But
I mean, that comes with us too. Like, while you're in it, you think it sounds like shit, but then you listen back like, oh no, that wasn't that bad.
So, Dom, I gotta say, man, thank you. This is I feel like this is real important shit here, and I'm happy that you were here to talk about it with me, bro.
No doubt, man. Anytime you need me to talk about nigga shit, let me know.
Hey, I didn't say anything. Make sure you're watching the video. You know who said that shit. Fuck around and get me canceled.
No, it's always a good time talking to you, Steve, man.
Man, I appreciate it.
Anytime you need me for something, man, I'm always like a text away. So, it is what it is. You the homie, man.
Hey, I appreciate that, man. Anything I could do to support you guys, happy to do it. Appreciate the good content and the good competition in Pokemon. Although I gotta say, the level of competition is going down.
Why you bringing the bullshit, man? Why you bringing the bullshit? All right, we not talking about that no more. Okay, it happened. All right.
All right. So what do you got to promote? Anything?
Domino Effect podcast. That's my other podcast that I do other than Three Ninjas podcast. It's found on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Google Play, Stitcher, not Spotify. Just search Domino Effect podcast. My interview, it's more so a music podcast. So, it's more so like just a lifestyle podcast. Like, I interview musicians, I interview producers, DJs. I've interviewed like some painters, like actual artists. I've interviewed radio personalities, just a bevy of different people. So, check that out, Domino Effect podcast. Other than that, Three Ninjas podcast, y'all know the drill. SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, where the fuck you get your podcast, we is there. Check out, we got new merch that dropped on threeninjaspodcast.com. We just
waiting for my mug, man. Waiting for my mug.
It's coming. It's definitely coming. So, we just celebrated our 100th episode.
Yes, 100th episode. Insert applause here.
Yeah. Thank you, man. We had two special guests on. We had Chris Green, who's an actor, who's been on the show numerous times. and we
He's
had
a mainstay on the show, I would say.
mainstay on the show. That's the homie. Then we had Crondon, who plays Tobias White on Tobias Whale. I can't never say his fucking man name right. That's why he got on me. Tobias Whale. So he plays Tobias Whale on Black Lightning, and he was on the show as well for our 100th episode. So go check that out if you like it. Subscribe, leave us a nice rating and review, please.
Since we're talking about people you've had on your show, I don't know, have we addressed this? Like, you've had Kevin Eastman call into the show more than once? Kevin Eastman being one of the creators of the fucking Ninja Turtles?
Dog,
like,
if y'all listen to the show, y'all know how big of a Ninja Turtle fan I am, and to be able to talk to the man that I guess started my fandom, I can't put that shit into words, man. It's like starting the podcast, I never knew it would get me to the things I've done and the people I've met and just the people I've talked. I would have never thought in a million years that Kevin Eastman would have responded
to Kevin Eastman interview?
Twice.
Tell me. You didn't pay money for this.
Didn't pay money for this. See, everybody not gonna get that, man.
No, not everybody. That's okay. We're not gonna explain it.
That's okay. But yeah, man, it's a podcast thing. It's been a journey that I never saw coming. I thought it was gonna be me and a mic talking shit. But it's turned into something much, much more. So, I can only be thankful to the higher power and, hopefully just keep going for many years to come. And hopefully it evolves into, something bigger than just a podcast, hopefully, multimedia stuff.
As a listener, bro, I'm so happy to see that you guys keep growing. I'm happy to see you guys going in that direction. It's like when you're young, you know about that artist, that band or somebody, that singer that nobody really knows about. And then you see him blow up and he's like, I was there since the beginning.
I was with it from jump, man.
That was my band right there.
When they was doing mixtapes, I was there. But now they, they worldwide tours and shit. Now they, big. Hey, but
I claim Kendrick Lamar. That's mine. Because I knew about him since Section 80. Nobody knew who the fuck he was.
Yeah, Section 80 when he made the Michael Jordan song. Like I remember them days.
Yep.
So just everybody that's been on this journey so far with us, man, thank you. If you a new listener, old listener, if you came in on episode 1 or episode 100, we're just thankful.
I came in on the full blown episode.
You did? Damn. Damn.
With the full blown, I was like, yo, this is my kind of show.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Hesh, man.
Shout out to Hesh.
That's my ninja, man. Shout out to Hesh, man.
All right, so that's it.
I got nothing else to promote, man. That's it.
All right, man. That's it. That's the episode. Big, huge, gigantic, tremendous shout out to Dom. Like I said, some of this stuff is not easy to talk about, and it was really, really cool of him to come on here and spend all this time with us talking about uncomfortable shit. But, I think it's a testament to him being a stand-up dude, and I really appreciate it. And I hope you guys, the viewers and listeners, appreciate this, because you are who this is for. If you're someone who comes from a place where you don't know a lot of people that don't look like you, this podcast is for you. Okay? Whether you're black, white, brown, yellow, orange, purple, green, I don't care. Whether you're blue, whether you're Navi, it doesn't matter. Whether you're green, you're a Namek. This podcast is for you if you don't know people that don't look like you. Okay? Because it's when you develop relationships and friendships with people that are different from you that you gain understanding, you gain empathy, and you start to put a human face on, groups of people that maybe you don't know anything about. And I think that is a big problem that we have in America, is that we don't give a shit until it's our problem. We don't give a shit when it's people that aren't us, nobody we know. And we talked about that. I'm not going to harp on that and repeat it, but we need to be empathetic. We need to be understanding of people. We need to broaden our perspectives. And I've talked about that on the show before, and I'm going to keep saying it because it's important. And that's something that I really, truly believe we need to work on as people, as human beings, as Americans. I know it's not only Americans listening to the show. I get it. But, yeah, you guys are watching this. It's on YouTube. Please make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video. I know everybody says that, but that shit really makes a difference. It really helps us with the algorithms. It helps other people find the show, and it helps us grow. And if you're listening, make sure you follow us on Spotify. Make sure you give us a rating on iTunes, all that good stuff. All those things actually matter. It's not just shit people say at the end of a video or a podcast. Those things actually make a difference. And like I said, it helps other people find the show and it helps us grow. So, I want to say thank you to everybody if you stuck with us all this time. I know this is a long one tonight, but I appreciate you. I love you. And hit me up. I love the feedback. So that's it. We'll see you next week. Peace. Bye.